or simply ready to feel better than you have in years, Gadatana meets your body where it needs it most. Visit melissahousegpa.com today. That's melissahousegpa.com and discover the original superfood your body has been waiting for. Gadatana. Pure.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff operations officer, assisted the national security team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan, and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
If you look behind me, that was the day everything changed. The cameras showed up, the story broke, and in a matter of hours, a company built over years, and the families behind it were branded guilty before a single fact was heard.
It's a raid. Nearly 100 armed federal agents barged in on a Lexington insurance broker today. The government agents stormed the downtown offices of Kelco Incorporated, searching for signs of fraud.
That was the breaking story, but the real story will be told in 15 days on June 23rd. This book is that story about what happens when the power of government gets turned against its own people, how it works, how methodical it is, and how it can destroy something honest and innocent overnight. This took years most people will never see, and it didn't just cost me. It cost so many good families their peace, their livelihood, their faith in the system that's supposed to protect them. I never asked to be a voice for anyone, but I've come to understand how humbling it is to stand here and represent Americans who've been through this, the ones who got crushed quietly and never got their day in the spotlight. To everyone who supported me through this, thank you. I don't have the words for what this means. In 15 days, you'll be able to read the whole thing, the truth they never put on the evening news. Order it on Amazon today or visit Stephen-Keller.com. 15 days. Don't look away this time.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and we're live on World YouTube and X Spaces simulcast once again. You just watched that clip. A company built over years, families' lives turned upside down, branded guilty before a single fact was even heard. That's the story of today's guest. And at just 27 years old, Stephen L. Keller founded Kelco and changed an entire industry. He pioneered biatical settlements, giving terminally ill patients a way to access their life insurance money when they need it most while they're breathing. He co-founded the industry's first association. Then in 1998, launched the life settlement industry itself. He brought the first securitized bundles of life insurance policies to the New York Stock Exchange, captured 65% of the global market, now a $30 billion a year business, and raised $13 billion on Wall Street. He even helped write the regulations that still govern the industry today. And then came the high-profile FBI investigation, the federal trial, the international manhunt, arrested by Interpol in the jungles of Panama, extradited to the United States, and he served 9 years in federal prison. More than a decade later, Steve Keller's back in South Florida. He's building businesses, consulting, serving his church and community, and running a scholarship foundation for young entrepreneurs from his hometown in eastern Kentucky, too. And now, this powerful new memoir pay to play that you just heard about, he's telling the full story of what happened. Today, we're asking the question the majority leader wants to ask of him. Have you learned your lesson yet? Was this justice, or was it the weaponization of the Department of Justice and federal power against a disruptor who challenged very powerful interests? We're about to find out. Straight from the man himself, Steve Keller. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me, and it's great to be here.
I appreciate that. And I know that clip's talked about June 23rd, folks. You can get the book on Amazon. I got a copy right here. And look at what's written on the edge of the book. You need to read this book. Steve, this is the business itself. Tell folks a little bit about this business that you started. That's really the core of the story.
Yeah, so you're right. When I was 27 years old, I came up with this concept, selling your life insurance policy for money. The terminally ill side of it started out when the AIDS epidemic hit, and that was organically created. These people were afflicted with AIDS, and there was no FDA-approved medication, so they used the health or the life insurance as a form of healthcare, if you will. So they were able to sell this at a discount to the face amount, and investors would buy this and pay the premiums, and they would collect the death proceeds when these people met their demise. And so in 1998, there was a thing called the cocktail drugs, and everybody perceived that to be a cure for AIDS, which it was not. But at this time, we had a lot of employees, and there was a decrease in the amount of people that were selling the policies and a decrease in the investors that came to the table. So that's when I started doing the massive research and seeing who else could utilize this service, and that's when I stumbled up on the life settlements, and that's seniors 65 years and older. I created this market and allowed seniors to sell their policies that wasn't necessarily terminally ill; they're just older. And but up until me, there was no such concept. 99% of the policies lapsed. So you would take out a policy and pay on it for 10 or 15 years, and the premiums would escalate to the point where maybe you're now retired and you're on a fixed income, and you no longer could afford or didn't want to afford the premiums, and you let it lapse. You turn it back in. So all the premiums that was paid by the consumer would be kept by the insurance company, and they never had to pay out. That wasn't by accident. That was their business model. And so when I came along and forced them to pay out, they didn't like that.
Yeah, it makes sense, because it's a $1 trillion business, right? I mean, these insurance companies, it's trillions and trillions of dollars of revenue, right?
Yeah, there's like per year, I believe that the figures I last saw were $200 billion a year in lapse.
That's amazing.
It's a big number.
It is a big number. What did you have to do to start this? I mean, I get on the AIDS side how that began, but when you decided to expand it, how much money are we talking?
So I'll tell you how this happened, because it was like a tsunami that hit our offices of volume. So in 1998. I actually produced and ran the first commercial ever done in this industry. And Robbie, it cost me $1 million back then, and I didn't have $1 million. I borrowed every dime of it from one of our companies that were buying policies from us. And I came up with this good idea to create this commercial that was actually shot inside of a hospital. And it had two nurses walking down the hallway, and one was, they both had clipboards, and one was saying, my father is suffering from cancer. He's older and he doesn't have health care, and we don't know what we're going to do. The bills are horrendous. And this doctor stops him in the hallway and says, "Have you called Kelco?" That was the name of my company. And then the tagline on there was, "If you're 65 years or older, can you call this company?" Well, we had produced that ad in conjunction with the first commercial that we ran for the terminally ill, for the people that were afflicted with AIDS. So I called the marketing firm, and I said, look, I've got a new product that's coming out. It's called the Life Settlements. And I said, it's for 65 years and older people. I don't have another $1 million to spend with you. Could you put a tagline down at the bottom of the commercial that's, states if you're 65 years or older and you want to sell your policy, you can. They said, sure. So at this time, the commercial was running in Arizona. And it was on at the evening show, right right in the middle of Oprah Winfrey's talk show. And as you remember, everybody and their mom watched Oprah. It was almost like the Super Bowl. They shut down to watch Oprah's talk show. And I had hired 40 people in my office to man the phones at that time. And I had a backup office in Iowa that would overflow to another phone bank out there. And when this ad hit, it blew up our phone banks. It blew up the 40 man that I had, and it hit Iowa, and it blew them up. And it wasn't so much people that were calling in to sell policies as it was. It alerted insurance agents that had a 20 or 30-year book of business that they could sell their policies. And they were calling us up to sign up as brokers for Kelco. And within over a month, we had 30,000 agents sign up with us in this country. And in 2 months, I had $9 billion that were tendered for us to buy in life insurance policies from these brokers.
Wow. That's and the life insurance companies were not happy.
They were not happy. No. So, my staff came to me and they said, Keller said, we've got a problem. And I said, what's the problem? Looks like we're doing pretty well. And they said, well, the entire terminally ill market only had $2 billion last year, the entire industry, and we've got $9 billion in the door and we can't possibly buy all this. What are we going to do? And I said, well, there's only one thing to do. We got to go to Wall Street and raise the money. So I spent the next 2 years going to Wall Street, knocking on doors, banks, insurance companies, reinsurance firms, wherever I could get a conversation. And I met with 230 banks, and we closed 80 deals under contract or commitments and raised $13 billion. And that was a double-edged sword because obviously dealing with insurance companies up there, they knew what we were up to, and they knew that the product we're creating, and I think it really intimidated them, and they were fearful for their bottom line.
What was driving their fear, though? I mean, they still. I want to make sure people understand this, Steve.
Okay.
So their business model was people pay their premium, and then they essentially don't really pay out that much, right?
No,
Is that accurate? How does the regular insurance model work that was giving them fear about you and what you were doing? I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Okay. So they would want you to take a policy out and pay on it for years. It could be 10, 15 years, you're paying the premium. And then eventually there's something happened in your life that you no longer want to afford that premium, and you just walk away. Mm-hmm. You walk away from that asset, and it disrupts the policy. It lapses. So they never have to pay out. That's their business model. They don't want to pay out. And it's still the business model today. And they won't even tell people that this is an option. That this is an asset, no different than a car or a house or any other asset you own, investments. It's an asset that people should realize that they can sell if they reach that point in time in their life that they need money. But the insurance companies, for years, their business model has been to encourage people to lapse those policies and never pay out. So when we started paying out or forcing them to pay out, so like you come to me, let's say you had $1 million policy, I give you $500,000 cash now. Mm-hmm. I take the policy over, I pay the premiums, I collect the death proceeds when you die. I collect $1 million, and I'm forcing the insurance companies to pay that out. Mm-hmm. That's what they didn't like, because they want that policy to lapse.
Now, does that work for term life and whole life?
It does for term. If term has a convertible feature, it has to be convertible over to a permanent insurance product, like a universal or whole life in it. Right. Some terms don't, and you can't buy those. Not every policy is sellable, but I certainly encourage people to call a company that's affiliated with the National Association that's reputable. It's been vetted out, and get their policies evaluated. You can do that for free. You don't have to sell it, but at least know where you stand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll dive into the legal stuff. I mean, we're going to show a clip. You're talking about having lunch at the White House, and then a few days later, all hell is breaking loose. I'll be right back with Steve Keller, author of Pay to Play, folks. Go get it. It's a great book, and it's a great story. You need to hear it on The Rob Maness Show.
Take a look at the water you just poured. It looks clean. It tastes fine. But what's really in it? Lead, fluoride, arsenic, chlorine, pesticides, PFAS forever chemicals, pharmaceutical residues, and bacteria. Every single day, these toxins flow straight from your tap into your glass, into your family. It's time for Sentry H2O from Worldview Water. Sentry H2O is the ultimate water treatment technology, designed to remove harmful toxins, balance your water's pH, and enrich it with essential minerals like calcium and magnesium, the way nature intended. From commercial scale systems to whole house filtration to crisp, delicious drinking water right at your kitchen sink and shower, Sentry H2O delivers cleaner, healthier water everywhere you need it. No plumber, no tools, no plumbing knowledge required. Perfect for homes, apartments, rentals, RVs, refrigerators, and more. Because everyone deserves access to clean, healthy water. Visit worldviewwater.net. That's worldviewwater.net.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. I think we've got a clip coming up here. Go ahead.
On Monday, I was having lunch in the White House. On Friday, our office is being raided by the federal government. At the time, I didn't realize I disrupted the entire life insurance market.
Can an ordinary citizen still effectuate meaningful political change without the big money?
There's no way. The majority leader at that time in the Senate came in and said, Steve, have you learned your lesson yet? Up here, you got to pay to play.
Wouldn't you concede you were part of the very problem you're now trying to fix?
I'm showing how this pay-to-play system works from the inside out.
But if you were so innocent, why did you flee the country? I mean, this doesn't sound like an innocent victim here.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday, and this is a live television show, folks. So sometimes you get little glitches, like what just happened there. My guest today is Steve Keller, that man, the author of this book, Pay to Play, that's brand new this year, to tell the whole story about the weaponized Department of Justice against him and what it's done to him. And Steve, you in that clip at the beginning of it, you mentioned one day you were at lunch at the White House, and then within a few days, all what was breaking loose. What were you doing at the White House that day? Why were you there?
Rob, the growth of this company took me to places I never would have imagined, and I never would imagine being in the White House. But I had a situation where we were buying our largest competitor, which was owned by CNA Insurance. It was a huge deal. And one of my bankers that was backing me on this buyout, he kept taking off on Fridays for a long weekend. And finally, one day I asked him, I said, look, I hate to be personal with you, but we got to get this deal done. I'm under a time frame here, and it's a big deal. And you keep taking off, what's the problem? And he told us that his fiance had lost her visiting visa. She was working here and lost her job, and so they were meeting on the weekends in Canada. She lived in Australia at the time. So I said, look, we gotta do something. We gotta fix this. So 6 degrees of separation. I contacted this lady that was from Lexington, Kentucky. And she was now working as the chief of staff for the Alan Tipper Gore in the White House. And so I actually met with her. Her name's Audrey Haynes. Mm-hmm. And I met with her, took the banker, and we had a discussion about trying to help his fiance out with a visiting visa. So that's what happened. And as you know, Colonel, the checks and balances to get into the White House is a top clearance security.
Sure, yeah.
And so here I am, this guy that goes into the White House on Monday, And on Friday, same guy. In 4 days, I had not changed. Nothing had transpired to me to create what I'm about to tell you. So on Friday, I'm in New York at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I probably got in very late that night before, out with 3 insurance companies. So I'm fumbling through the dark to try to find my phone even. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, I get a phone call from my assistant, Karen, who is telling me that our office is being raided by 100 armed FBI agents.
Armed.
Armed agents.
Now this business that you established with Kelco, it's innovative, right? I mean, it was innovative. Obviously, you're at the leading edge of financial and the insurance and probably some medical overlap too. All of those businesses, that's white collar. And you actually wrote some of the regulations for this type of business because it was so new, right? Weren't you like a leading expert in it? So they you help write the regulations for it?
Yes. There was no regulations prior to me there. We hired a lobbyist, in-state lobbyist, and we had a senator to back this bill, and we passed it. And we worked with the Department of Insurance to write the legislation, which was another point too. All the regulations and rules and laws for insurance are found in the states. There are no federal insurance laws. It's all designed that way, and it's all housed in the state. So, when this first happened, I didn't have a clue what could possibly bring this on because I knew we didn't break the laws we wrote. We wrote them.
Yeah, and the FBI's federal jurisdiction, right? Not state.
That's correct. Yeah.
So how did you find yourself with? And when you say 100 armed FBI agents, are you talking about agents in suits with their guns under their coats, kind of like what we think about when we think about the FBI, or are these like guys armed to the teeth with rifles and those kind of things?
I think they were brandishing pistols for the most part. I mean, there was some other guns there. I do remember that evening. I physically saw one of the lead prosecutors sitting in a pair of overalls and on one of our expensive couches, drug out on the main street with a shotgun. So that was a very unusual sight. But it kind of summed up what we were dealing with: some rogue cowboys.
Yeah. So why were they so heavily armed, and why so many? I mean, it just seems like I wouldn't have guessed that it would play out that way.
Well, they started at 7 o'clock in the morning, and there was U-Haul trucks there. They had crime scene tape around the entire block of the building. They had rented these large tractor trailers. They were looting the entire company out during that time frame, from 7 in the morning to 11 at night, taking out 600 banker boxes of all of our files. They got everything they could. They were there to intimidate, to destroy. When they were given keys to brand new file cabinets, brand new furniture we had at the time, they threw the keys to the floor and proceeded to drill the locks out. So they had pulled guns on some of the employees and just intimidated them, threatening them to put them in jail if they didn't say certain things, or they weren't getting a paycheck. That day was payroll, and just all kinds of shenanigans went on.
So search warrants are generally really specific, required to be specific about exactly what law enforcement is looking for and what they're supposed to take. This must have been a whole bunch of different search warrants, or any idea?
I don't recall. I don't know, but as you saw in that first clip you played, it said that they were there to investigate to see if there was a crime. So it was wide open.
It makes me wonder what the probable cause was for the search warrant, which is what a judge is looking for to sign a search warrant.
Exactly.
Yeah. So how did you find yourself on the wrong side of federal law enforcement if insurance is a state issue?
Well, that's something that was perplexing for me for about 6 months. And at the end of 6 months, I received a phone call from who was considered to be the watchdog of the industry. She was a consumer advocate, and she's certainly not somebody that would reach out an olive branch to me. She would be somebody that would be watching our company and trying to cause us problems. But on this particular day, she called me and she said, Steve, she goes, there's an attorney that you need to talk to, and I'll give you his number. You need to call him now. And I was like, okay. I thought it was this very strange phone call, come from this lady. But I think looking back, I think she realized how wrong this whole system was and what happened to us. So I called this guy, and his name is Dale Barron, and he was an attorney with the Department of Insurance prior in Texas, out of Houston.
Okay.
And I called him, and now he was in private practice. So he answered the phone, and I told him who I was, and he started laughing. He said, Steve Keller. He goes, you must have a lot of questions. And I said, you could say that. Yeah. And he said, I've got all the answers for you. He said, but it's going to cost you. He said, I want $10,000 and I'm going to FedEx you everything that you could possibly want. So at this point, I am so desperate and trying to put the wheels on back on the bus. I've got all these employees, and we're trying to get this thing back on track. So it didn't have a clue, what had happened at this point. So I sent him the money, and the next day I got this large package in the mail, and I opened it up, and it was 2 4-inch binders. And I opened up the binders, and it was like a hit list. They're like everybody in the industry, all their agents, everything was listed in there. A picture of our building, all my employees, everybody we dealt with. It was incredible. It was more organized than we had an organization internally. So I called Dale back, and I said, Dale, I received these packages and these binders. I said, this looks like a hit list. What is this? And he said, you pretty much summed it up. He said, this was basically what it was. It was a hit list, and it was used by the insurance companies that got together. He said, Steve, there was 50 insurance companies that got together to conspire to do this to you. And this is the books they used. And he said 2 weeks later, they had another meeting to cover up the first meeting, and they invited one postal service worker in from each state. I had a 4-day seminar in the headquarters of the insurance companies in Carmel, Indiana. And they sold them a bill of goods. The insurance companies drafted the indictments, handed it to the postal service, and said, go get them. And I said, Dale, this is just unbelievable. I said, this sounds like a fiction novel. And then I said, how do you know this? And he said, because they had asked me to be the lead speaker there at this meeting, and I was.
Oh.
And I said, well, I don't understand it. I said, why are you telling me this then? And he said, well, what happened was I left my job with the Department of Insurance, went into private practice, thinking that they were going to hire me and I was going to make all this money. I was going to lead the bandwagon against your industry. And he said, they told me they didn't need me. And he said, so I figured you did. And thank God he called, because I still would have been clueless today. And, what I realized, Colonel, is, most times the federal government doesn't wake up and start attacking citizens in this country unless it's on behalf of either a political opponent or a greedy whistleblower or a competitor like me. So, what the weaponization is, it comes into play with the government being used as a hit person for these third-party interest groups, and just like this one. So a lot of people go through this and never realize who did it. And in this case, I'm blessed to know who did it because I received that phone call.
Yeah, and you were able to hire Dale as your attorney, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
No, we didn't hire him. We had other criminal defense attorneys. He was not a criminal defense attorney. Okay. We had a whole other team that we had to forego.
Had to be a heck of a witness, though.
It would have been. It should have been, but they never used him.
Really? Well, we'll get into that.
Insurance law. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the next segment, I guess. in this last minute, just talk about the indictments themselves. What were they indicting you for? Was it you personally or the company or?
It was three officers and two companies, and their their indictments came on behalf of conspiracy to commit mail fraud. And their theory was that we bought life insurance policies that were contestable, where people had lied on the applications, and we sold them through the mail. We didn't write the insurance, we didn't sell the insurance. We just bought it. So it's
Right.
existing policies that we bought, and we turned around and sold them to investors. But ironically, their theory was that these policies were somehow fraudulent because they're under 2 years old, which there was no rules in the books to prevent that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the insurance industry is the only industry in the world I know that has a 2 year leeway to get out of a contract. And after 2 years and 1 day, they have to bind it and they have to pay out regardless of what happened in those 2 years.
Yeah.
During those 2 years, though, they can cancel the policy for anything they want, any underwriting, if they don't like your hair color or whatever, they can cancel the policy.
Right.
After 2 years and 1 day, they cannot.
Okay.
So ironically, the same charge, if those policies had been 2 years and 1 day, there would have been no fraud under their theory.
Understand. Okay. Yeah, I got it. All right. We got to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to give you a chance to talk about your actual arrest when you were pulled over. This is a very interesting story, folks. You got to stay with us here on the Rob Maness Show on Worldview Tube. We're talking with Steve Keller, entrepreneur, author of the book Pay to Play. It's available on Amazon. I'll see you in a second.
At a certain age, you stop chasing younger. You start protecting what helps you feel steady, strong, and well. Your body's collagen matters. It supports the structure of your skin, joints, and connective tissue. But as the years go by, your body needs more support from the inside. That's where Bella Grace Elixir comes in. Bella Grace Elixir combines Verisol collagen, the world's most clinically proven collagen, with asteryl astaxanthin and cat's claw in a proprietary blend designed to help support the processes that reconstruct collagen, while also offering antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. And this isn't just for women. It's for men and women who want to age with more confidence, more care, and a daily wellness routine that supports the body from within. One simple elixir, thoughtfully formulated for whole body wellness. Take care of the body that has carried you this far. Order Bella Grace Elixir today at melissahousebg.com.
Police officer on a motorcycle with an AK-47 strapped to his back pulled me over. And at that time, I didn't think that the game was over. It was a situation where I really showed strength, I think because of my son was there. I said, but do not leave my side. Stay with me no matter what. And they did come and ask him to leave. And he said, no, I'm good where I am. So I knew if we stayed in the car, we were safe in numbers, he and I. And at the embassy guy came and he said, I think you know why we're here. It's time to go. They handcuffed me and my son sat on my lap in this nondescript car, and they took he and I both to this third world jail.
All right, it's Truth Thursday, and we're telling the truth today about the book Pay to Play with the author and the guy that you just saw there. He and his family lived through this. Pay to Play, available on Amazon. That's Steve Keller. Steve, so this is first of all, it's totally confusing. First of all, the feds are raiding you, but all the insurance legal stuff is at the state level, and now somehow you've become an international fugitive.
Yes.
How take us through how that all culminated in you being stopped and arrested in front of your son and taken away? How did that happen?
I would tell you that we left the country after trial. I was convicted and I was sentenced to 14 years in federal prison for this conspiracy to commit mail fraud. And we were left out pending the appeal. And one thing that haunted me during the middle of my trial, we were coming back from recess,
and I had like 16 people with me, and we were walking back from lunch from my office down to the courthouse, and we were frozen at our tracks at a site that was unannounced in Lexington, Kentucky, and it was a motor brigade by the Attorney General. And the Attorney General got out of his car, went in and talked to my judge, got back in his car, and took off. And after that, the demeanor of the judge was such that anything we asked for, we didn't receive, and everything the prosecutors asked for, they got. And I just felt like the due process was not there at all for me at that time. And I guess any inkling of hope that I had in the justice system had diminished down to nothing at that point. And so I was out in an appeal, and I'd received a really distressing phone call from one of my attorneys, my main attorney, who sounded like he was getting over a 3-day drunk or something. He sounded horrible. His voice was really gruff, and he got on the phone and he said, "Look, my worst nightmare is now a reality. They want to lock you up." So I had met a gentleman a couple months prior that embedded this thought in my head about leaving the country. He said he had somebody that can make it disappear if we wanted to leave. So one thing led to another, and I had a conversation with my ex-wife, and I said, "Look, we might have another option. It's not a good option, but it's an option." And so that night we had a discussion with our families, and they all decided the same thing that I was feeling about the lack of due process and the lack of hope in the justice system. And so we had a private plane in my business prior, so I knew how that worked, and I knew you didn't have to go through checks and balances like you do on a commercial side. And so we rented a plane and took off and left the country with my 2 kids and my ex-wife, and we ended up in Panama. And I stayed there for about 6 months before everything came down. So I was working with an attorney there for a while. I told him our whole story, and he took us in and set up corporations for us, got everything out of our names. And I was actually working for him as like a business guru for this guy. People that would come in with business opportunities for him. My job was to determine if they were fraudulent or not, or structure the deals or whatever. So there was one particular day that my ex-wife called, and she had a really bad flu or something. She was deathly ill, and she summons us to come back to our apartment. And I came back there, and she was just coaxing me to take my son to his little karate class. He was 5 years old at the time. Right. And I didn't want to drive because I didn't want a simple traffic infraction to, beg the question of who are you? So against my better judgment, though, I decided to take him. Went to the karate class. After the karate class, this guy on his motorcycle with an AK-47 strapped to his back stopped us and motioned for me to go to this giant parking lot that looks like it might have housed a Walmart at one time, maybe, but the building was tore down. I pulled in there with my 5-year-old son, and these cars started coming out of nowhere, and they formed a half moon shape around the car. And as they would come in at a screeching halt, they would throw open the doors, brandish their guns over top the door. We had like 30 guns pointing at us by the time I looked up.
So I guess the U.S. had put the word out on you. They thought you had flown the country, and said this was a dangerous fugitive.
Yeah, I think that was exactly what they did. I think it was a failed attempt to get me killed. It actually is what happened.
Really? What makes you think that?
Well, the next day in the papers, when they took me to a third world jail after that happened. The embassy met me, and I spent the night there. And then the next day, I was woken up early in the morning, and I had like 5 or 6 guys that broke into the back of the jail, and they were brandishing arms. I mean, they were armed up. They had rifles and pistols and whatnot, and whisked me away in this SUV. And that was the most terrifying part of it. I thought they were taking me out to execute me, but they were holding up newspapers at the time, and the headlines on the paper said that I was the most dangerous criminal to ever escape the United States. So I think that they I think our government had portrayed me as such, so that they might possibly kill me while I was on the run.
Yeah. So you're out on appeal. You leave the country, get to Panama with your family. You're working there. What was your plan? Because obviously the appeal is going to happen. Trial process, right?
I really didn't have a good plan. This was a knee-jerk reaction. I tell people that I was a pretty decent CEO, but I was a terrible criminal. So we were trying to get tax refund checks back from the government, and I I paid a lot of taxes over my course of time in business.
Yeah.
And at this time, because the business was losing money, we had recaptured some taxes over several years. So these were sufficing us to keep the business alive, and we were trying to get some to take with us. And these checks were intercepted by the government, so we had to take, what we had with us, which was about $300,000 in cash, which was not going to last, a long time, setting up from scratch. So, yeah, so we were faced with that.
And how did the appeal process play out?
Well, I was luckily I was captured at the time I told you, which was about 6 months. So I made it back, and I didn't even know this when I left. I didn't even think about it. But if I had stayed longer, they would have disallowed me the appeal. But there was a new case law that came down that handled the time accounting for the courts, what they sentenced somebody on. And it shortened our sentences to where we got remanded back for resentencing. And the other two officers got a really low sentence. And I think the judge, he wasn't too happy with me leaving the country. So I think he put the hammer down on me. So I went from 14 years to 10 years at that point.
14 years is pretty big for a white collar crime like that, isn't it? Originally?
Yeah. I mean, I could have killed two people and not got that much time. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So when they brought you back to the United States, this was before that change, right? What was that process like? Did they put you like in iron shackles and put you on Con Air and bring you home?
So they did. I flew back on the very back seat of a Delta airplane, a commercial, to start out with, from Panama back to Miami. And then when I got to Miami, they had a lot of hardware for me, a lot of leg shackles and wrist shackles, and then I was shackled up from then on. So I went to Miami, and then they flew me from there to Atlanta. From Atlanta, they flew me to Oklahoma, and then back. So yeah, I was flying on a Con Air at that time frame.
And back being Kentucky, right?
Back to Kentucky, yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And then you were sentenced, and where did you spend your time all in one facility? And was it what level of security was that?
Yes. So they housed me the entire time at the Federal Medical Center in Lexington, Kentucky. It was a medical center, so they had different classifications would come in there for treatment. So you could have high levels, medium, lows, which made it fairly dangerous because you never really knew who you was dealing with. So, but I spent my whole time there behind the razor wire. I couldn't go to camp because I was considered a flight risk, obviously.
Yeah.
And so that's another thing that harmed me throughout the whole entire time I was there.
Yeah. So your fellow corporate officers, they went to camps, federal camps?
Yes. Yeah. My CFO was with me for a while because he was suffering from cancer at the time. And which he beat it, and he's healthy today, thank God. But it was a serious form of cancer, though. We thought possibly he wouldn't make it out of there. But he was with me, which was a godsend at the time. And I think he did 3 years and before he got out.
But they gave him treatment and everything, because we've heard stories about January 6th people that were denied cancer treatment and all that. You guys didn't experience any of that kind of stuff.
He had his treatment, luckily, before all that happened, or they wouldn't have been able to treat him.
Yeah.
But his immune
Wow.
system was really shallow after that treatment. So that's one of the concerns we had about him being in that environment.
Yeah, it's a tough environment to be in with a regular immune system, let alone one that's depleted after whatever kind of treatment he had to have. It always gets depleted, no matter what it is. All right, we got one more break. When we come back, Steve, I want to give you a chance to talk about the political aspects of this. I've been in politics for a while now. I have some thoughts on it. I want to run by you, but I'm really interested in what you tell people in the book because there's a reason why you put the question, "Have you learned your lesson yet?" On the pages of this book, not just the cover, but the pages. You can't pick up the book without reading the question. We'll be right back with Steve Keller on the Rob Maness Show.
Friends, this is Brandon Howes. For more than a year now, I've been teaching through the book of Revelation, and the response from you has been overwhelming. You've asked me again and again, when are you going to put this study in print? We want to mark it up. We want to share it with our families. Well, it's here. My brand new 2-volume commentary on the book of Revelation, verse by verse, chapter by chapter. This is not a watered down, allegorized replacement theology approach to Revelation. This is a literal, grammatical, historical study, the way the Lord intended his word to be read. And I connect the prophecy of Revelation to the headlines you're watching unfold right now, the rise of global government and the convergence of end-time events the Lord Jesus warned us about. Folks, we are living in serious days, and there has never been a more important time to understand what God has told us about what is coming. Get your 2-volume Revelation commentary today at worldviewstore.com. That's worldviewstore.com.
These guys come busting through my door, and there was like 5 or 6 guys that were dressed all in black, and they were weaponed up. They had guns and rifles and AK-47s. They said, "Let's go." And so I marched out with them, went in the back of the jail. They ushered me in this SUV, and they were all surrounding me. And they were looking at the articles from the paper of the apprehension of me. I saw a picture of me on the front page, and I couldn't read the words because they were in Spanish. But they were going on about this article, and I didn't know who these people were. I was still handcuffed at that time, and between these guys, and I kept asking them where we're going, and I literally thought they were going to take me out to execute me, and that's the most terrified I was throughout the whole event.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's Truth Thursday. We're live on World YouTube and our X Spaces simulcast. My guest is that man right there, Steve Keller, author of Pay to Play and the founder of Kelco, a unique and innovative company designed to help folks that use their life insurance as the asset that it is. Really, in layman's terms, I think I accurately described it. But he found himself up against some very powerful forces. And Steve, I just wanted to play that clip where you retold that story about them busting into the jail with all of these armed team and taking you out there. Yeah, that had to be daunting. But did you spend 9 years in federal prison before you were let out?
Yes.
Yeah. So your reduced sentence was 10. You didn't get much time off for good behavior. Were you a bad boy in prison?
No, back then there wasn't any leeway like there is now. Thank God they've effected some help for these people, but back then we had nothing. 85% of the time you're going to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we mentioned at the beginning of the show the political forces and corporate forces, and that you think that the life insurance I'll call them what I think they are, a cabal. The power brokers in the life insurance industry got together and colluded with folks in the federal government to bring these charges to you and crush you because you disrupted their business model.
Correct.
Yeah. Did any evidence? Were you able to find evidence at all of that in trial prep and all those kind of things?
So, I mean, this is the strangest thing, but typically insurance cases don't go to the federal side. And
Right.
actually,
Right.
there's a McCarran-Ferguson Act. It's a constitutional act. In layman's terms, it says if you are the business of insurance and you get caught up in the federal system, it
Mm.
should be remanded back to the states to determine if you broke a law or not.
Yeah.
So, they charged me with conspiracy to commit mail fraud, but they never told me how I did it. I mean, it's that in itself. There had to be an act that was broken to get there, and there just wasn't. And 4 years after I went to the prison, Kentucky amended the bill that we wrote, and they actually enacted an amendment that stated if it's illegal to sell policies under 2 years old anymore. And that's exactly what they convicted me for 4 years prior. So there was no law against it. But 1 year after the federal raid, I was summoned to D.C. and met in the Capitol in a private room. We had befriended the majority leader at that time. I was trying to pursue any help I could get politically because I knew we didn't break a law. So I knew this had to be driven
The
politically. I
U.S.
didn't.
Senate, U.S. Senate Majority Leader, right? Is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I was summoned up there, and I was met with the chief of staff for his administration, and he walked into the room grinning from ear to ear like he'd won the lottery. And he said, "So, Steve, have you learned your lesson yet?" And that's what's on the side of that book. And I said, "What lesson might that be?" And he said, "Up here, you got to pay to play." And that's the name of the book. So they were
this is only a year after the raid?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yep. So they were wanting me to hire the senator's son, who had just started a lobbying firm and federally. And again, as you said, there's no insurance laws federally, so why are we hiring a lobbying firm federally? And we were doing this because the majority leader told me to do it, and I was trying to survive at all costs. And if he's telling me that I need to do this, then I'm going to do it. So we hired this guy, paying him a ridiculous amount per month plus all expenses, and to try to garner favoritism.
So, how much power do you think the life insurance corporations have in Congress?
Well, I paid to play, but I think the insurance companies were paying a lot more money than I could ever afford behind my back to make sure my day did not go good. And that may explain why we had the surprise visit from the Attorney General during the middle of our trial. So I don't know, but certainly one can connect the dots and think that there's serious problems there. And there was a problem with this whole thing. I mean, it should never happen, but we didn't break an insurance law statewide. But I think it's immense. I think it's a huge problem. Private companies should not be able to use the federal government to weaponize and hire on behalf of PAC funds and lobbying groups to attack American innovators. I mean, it's got to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I've run for the U.S. Senate before as an outsider. I'm not a corporate guy. I'm a military retiree. And the only business I've ever been in is my little small business digital media publishing company and consulting stuff. So I've never really delved into the high stakes game of big money, those kind of things. But I know now that money talks in the political business. And I've always been concerned because my observation is that the corporations or individuals with a large sums of money to spread around are the ones that have the actual voice in the halls of Congress, our state houses, and those kind of things, because they're the ones that get elected. Not very often do people that have their own money like Donald Trump or a guy like me that can raise the money. Not very often can we raise enough money to defeat the big money guys, whether they're private individuals or corporations. I think there's a mixture of both. So the little guy, the the little guy and gal's voice in the halls of Congress, it's not working like it's supposed to. Now the
No.
Senate's supposed to represent the states, but the House of Representatives, it works the same way.
Well,
Is that your observation?
this Senate Majority Leader came to my office after the raid, which is unheard of for a seating senator.
No.
And he was sitting across from my desk, and he said, Steve, he goes, we know they're a problem on Capitol Hill, them being the Department of Justice. And he said, but we don't know what to do about it. And I said, Senator, I do. And he said, well, what's that? And I said, do you think our forefathers ever set out to incentivize the police force? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, it happens at the lower rung all the way to the top. At the lower rung, you've got local cops having quotas at the end of the month for speeding tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And the top level, I said, you give them bonuses for forfeitures, for raids. They get to enjoy 25% of the forfeiture monies they get from these companies. You give them job advancements. You give them points at the end of the year, and they do have quotas. They have quotas for how many convictions that they have to have running on the books per month.
Yeah.
And I said, it's got to stop. I said, if you take out the incentivized scheme across the board, then the law enforcement goes back to doing what they're supposed to do, is ferreting out corruption and not creating the crime. And the victimless crime is off the chart. We've started a nonprofit organization called Justice Restoration Foundation. And one of the things that we're doing right now is a financial study. And the study entails about how much the government is costing the American people per year by going after companies like mine and others out here that are victimless crimes. And the number is staggering. It's like 1.6 trillion a year loss.
Oh, really?
It's huge.
That's more than the fraud that the politicians
I'm
are
telling you.
incentivized.
Yeah. So if you take the loss of the payrolls and the cost of doing this, it's a large number.
That's a very large number. So the company that you ran, Kelco, does it still exist?
No.
But are there companies that do that, provide that service like you once did?
Yeah. The demand for this product survived the attacks. And it was overwhelming, and it's alive and well today. The industry does about $30 billion a year. It's licensed in 48 states, and it's alive and well.
That's amazing. So the company that you started, that you were sent to prison for the concept, apparently still exists, and they're making $30+ billion a year. In business, and
that is correct.
And the customers they're serving are happy with the product. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Wow. I mean, this is a much needed product, and there's a lot of people that this is a lifeline to. A lot of seniors.
Yeah.
I mean, I've people come to me and say, what would you advise us to do? We have a life insurance policy. I said, if you're in a position where you need to sell the policy, if you don't need it. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people had more than one policy, so they could sell some and keep one. But I said, sell the policy, buy an annuity. Because one thing, as a society, we are living longer now, and people are outliving their monies. It's a problem for seniors. So this is the way they can sell their policy, take that cash, buy an annuity, and have a guaranteed monthly income as long as they live.
Yeah, or pay off their house so they don't have debt going forward, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And there's a lot of things they can do and reasons why they would do this, but it's something that needs to be presented and afforded to seniors.
Yeah. All right, so I've got 2 minutes left, Steve. I want you to talk about you mentioned one of them, the foundation. Talk about the great things that you're doing today and what the future looks like for you and your family moving. Because you turned this into a positive, in my opinion.
Well, I had the book on the shelf for quite some time because I was fearful for my life and my kids, and and another thing too is I didn't think society would be acceptable of the truth, and now we've seen so much shenanigans with the Department of Justice and everything that's happened to President Trump and all that. People get it now. They say, "Yeah, we get it," but. So I have started a nonprofit organization, as I mentioned before, Justice Restoration Foundation, and I did this because when I brought the book out, I started hearing the same stories, the same playbook was used against me years ago, and I thought, why has nobody done anything about this? It made changes. The federal government has a 98% conviction rate. Casinos don't even have a 98% win rate. So you know, the only way you could have that high rate in anything is the system is broken. So it's my goal to bring up the civil procedures and try to introduce those into the federal level to make this fair. And you know, there. So we're doing that, and we're going to try to look at older laws that are on the books that can be revived or changed with a certain language to make it adaptable to today. And just like the Second Amendment. I mean, I'm without gun rights right now, and the reason I'm without gun rights because there's nowhere to go and tender to get that permit back, and the federal government hasn't funded that. And one of the reasons they said that they haven't funded it is because it would take too much manpower and too much cost to handle the backlog. And you fast forward it, and we're at 2026 now with AI, and AI could go through the applications like shuffling the deck of cards. So
it'd take about 10 minutes. It'd take about 10 minutes.
We need to get that back online. There's a lot of things that are just outdated that needs to be reviewed.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you doing the book, number one. And folks, you need to get it. Pay to Play. It's available at Amazon. You can follow Steve at Steve Keller E2P. P, the number 2, E, on X, and you can get everything from there, man. Thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate it. Let's stay in touch.
Thank you, Carl.
Yeah, you bet, brother. You bet. I'm Rob Maness. I'll see you Monday. More War Monday. We hope to have CDM Press CEO and former Special Ops helicopter pilot Todd Wood on as our guest to get an update on what's happening in the world of war. I'll see you then. Thanks.